Today on CityCast DC public schools open on Monday, and we're going to talk about the politics of it all. Plus, 6 DC police employees have been arrested as part of an overtime abuse scandal. And we'll get into the latest on the Kennedy Center and our beleaguered National Symphony Orchestra. Plus, in a members-only fourth segment, the tan suit. It is, we think, somewhere in DC, but we don't know where. We'll explain. I'm here with my CityCast colleagues Ben Brasch and Emma Uber. It is Friday, August 21st. I'm Michael Schaefer. Here's what DC's talking about. Hey, Emma.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Ben.
Howdy, Mike.
So first day of school on Monday. Do you guys have first day of school memories?
Yes, I remember being a sweaty little kid walking into class with my lunchbox, just hoping to get to lunch already and hoping I make friends, which is, just kind of basically how I'm walking through life in general. You know what I mean? So nothing much has changed.
It's never changed, yeah.
My sisters and I would always have to, pose for a picture on our front steps. I'm the oldest of 4, and there's age gaps, so lots of times we all be going to different schools. So I just remember being annoyed that I had to be up earlier and ready to pose for this picture to go on my mom's Facebook. But looking back, they're so cute. So I'm thankful to my mom for making us do that.
This is a huge generation gap thing. My first day of school memories have nothing to do with my parents. I mean, they would be like, all right, well, the M4 bus is just up the block. School is, 15 minutes away. See you later. And, nowadays, as we'll get into it, there is, this whole, you put your pictures on Facebook and whatever, but also the first day drop off. And, there's the run in at one of my kids' schools. And Ben, as we've been talking about, as we should get into, there's this whole thing of elected officials will show up and the mayor will clap kids in. And it's there's a whole sort of performance of it all.
Yeah, I've gotten more emails about Mayor Bowser and district officials clapping in students for back to school. They're trying to get community support for people to sign up for different shifts to clap and say great job, come back to school for the kids. I've gotten more emails about that than tax structures, which is usually what my inbox is filled with. So yeah, they certainly are doing a full court press on this.
We would not want our children unclapped in this city.
I could not imagine what it would do to the self-esteem. Absolutely.
But listen, there's if you're a local elected official, a ward council member or something, the fact is, particularly at elementary school, parents in DC, if schools are in walking distance, they will walk their kids to school, not in high school or middle school because the kids don't want anything to do with the parents at that age. But in elementary school, they will. And the parents will linger, and that is if you're, a person who seeks public approval, like an elected official, that's a great place to press the flesh and say, oh yeah, we're really taking you seriously, local parent group, about fill in the blank issue that you care about.
Yeah, I mean, it totally makes a political calculus sense. It's also a great way to interact with a broad swath of your community and checking on the pulse. Also, I don't know, it's fun. Politicians look for moments to be associated with fun, happy things, and that doesn't always get to be the case. And also,
there's nothing to complain about yet on the first day of school.
Right, exactly. Yeah, everyone loves their teacher right then. It's all good. There's also, they get to show some of their lives. Councilmember Henderson posted a photo of her turning in her her health forms for her kids. I saw she was tweeting about it. It was a selfie she took. She's pay the $10 per kid fee for an oral health school form that I'll likely have to send to DCPS 3 times, although not sure anyone looks at it. And then she put the date for a hearing where they can update this process. So that's a real concern that parents have. And also, she gets to show that she's a real person too.
But listen, can we talk for just a sec? Because there's obviously going to be a new mayor come January, and probably the most important hire of the new mayor is going to be the new schools chancellor. The longtime, or the past few years, DCPS chancellor announced his departure. There's an interim in place. Mayor Bowser, who's still the mayor until January, is not going to fill the job. Denise Lewis-George, who is almost certain to be the next mayor, has big issues with the way education's been run in the district in the last 20 years. She gets to name the boss of the school system. Like, obviously, she hasn't said who it's going to be, and I haven't seen any reporting on, like, she's taking meetings with, such and such, head of the Kansas City school system or something like that. But, like, who has her ear in general about issues like this?
It's a great question that we're still kind of trying to figure out. She's been a part of the community for so long that I think she knows those coalitions and those groups. And I'll say one of the larger education groups in town is the Coalition for DC Public Schools and Communities. That's the C4DC, and they just about a week or so ago put out a letter saying what they want to see. This is a coalition of about 20 organizations from across all 8 wards. And one of the things they said is, we want someone with at least 5 years of executive leadership experience in an urban public school district and at least 5 years of school-based experience. And then a lot of the other things are like, we want someone who is, supportive of the arts and, is a good communicator and things like that. But I mean, certainly DC has a really unique school setup between our, charter situation and our, public schools. So needing someone with experience does make a ton of sense. We're still trying to figure out who that shortlist is. It's early days in figuring it out, but the clock is ticking for sure for JLG.
So there's a weird thing here because JLG very strongly supported by the teachers union, and is really like very, very, very supportive of unions. So in this case, it's a weird thing where like you're a constituency that is sort of key to your coalition, is effectively going to help you pick their boss. And that, I mean, there's nothing sort of immoral about that, but it does, I mean, at some level, the boss-employee relationship has some adversarial stuff. Like they're going to disagree about, vacation policy or whatever. And, it is quite the opposite of something Emma and I talked about this week, which is, the other huge hire that will loom when she becomes mayor is of a police chief. And in that case, the police union, I know they've taken meetings since the primary, but, it's safe to say the police union was not central to the Janice Lewis George coalition. Yeah. And so in that case, she's hiring the boss of a bunch of people who like worked against her or don't like her very much.
This is interesting when you are running with labor so much as like the wind beneath your wings is you have to answer that constituency. And also like there's a school district to run. I know we talked a while back about kind of the unique skill set needed to run a large organization like this. It's like, look, if you started as a teacher, those skills do not necessarily translate to an executive position, running a budget with hundreds of millions of dollars and, thousands and thousands of employees. So it does take a really certain kind of someone, and especially to do it at the scale of this large of a metro, it is inherently a short list, unless you were going like completely left field, which like left not being like a political direction, but just like, the actual left field phrase. It does create this interesting dynamic that we're for sure going to want to keep a look on.
Emma, are you hearing anything on the police chief search? And again, if there were names of people actually coming in for interviews and meetings, we would have reported them. But like more about like how either the people around the presumptive mayor-elect or people interested in policing are sort of thinking of like the kinds of candidates who are out there?
Right. Well, short answer, no. I haven't heard a ton of chatter about like specific meetings with people. I think the big kind of debate here or speculation that people are having is whether JLG will want to choose an internal candidate or an external candidate. I think a lot of people originally thought that she would choose an external candidate, coming in as a new mayor after 12 years of Bowser. An external candidate might make sense. However, the DC Police Department has experienced so much turmoil over the past year, whether it be through Chief Smith leaving or the various, allegations of crime statistic manipulation or the fact that they were taken over by the federal government for 30 days, that some people are like, she might not want to rock the boat and maybe go with someone who's a multi-decade veteran of the department because the department direly needs some stability right now. So people aren't really certain which side of that coin she's going to fall on, but it's safe to say that people are kind of seeing the pros and cons of both and weighing them against each other.
I mean, there is obviously Shanice Lewis George, member of the Democratic Socialists of America. The first, I think, like stridently, sort of self-identifiedly progressive candidate to win. I mean, DC is obviously a very liberal city, but I think this is the first time in my memory where like the leftmost candidate in the field has won and won in a pretty dominant fashion. That said, there is this model like Zoran Mamdani appointing Jessica Tisch as police commissioner, where you sort of play against type. And you say, yes, I've got left-wing bona fides, but I'm going to, either mollify some of my critics or whatever by naming someone much more establishment to a top position like education or police, and communicate to the world that like I'm still the boss, but I'm going to work with this person. That is another model that I don't think anyone was expecting before the election, but that seems like, I mean, I'm just saying this based on like the political calculus. There's a sort of internal logic to it in terms of like disarming some of your reflexive critics.
Right. And to be clear, she's obviously a progressive, but she did not run on any sort of defund the police like campaign. In fact, one of the few things that her and McDuffie both agreed upon was that they both agreed that DC police need more officers, which is just a reality with the amount of overtime spending that the city currently has right now. Speaking of,
right. We'll get into that in a sec. Let me ask just before we pivot, in both these cases, there's interims right now. And Emma, you were saying just when we were chatting in the office the other day that, one of the things you're noticing about the current DC police interim chief, Jeffrey Carroll, is like, your phone's not ringing all the time with complaints from the rank and file, from the union. And I've never been a police reporter, but I've been an editor in DC for a long time. And you like not 6 months goes by without some pitch of like, oh, police morale is the lowest in history, because that is sort of the line you hear a lot. And I think there's a DCPS version of that too. But notably, you're not hearing that, which you were saying says that the rank and file is kind of on board with the current chief. So in both of these interim cases, I'm wondering, like, how's the interim person doing? And could that wind up being the sort of surprise fix?
I'm sure that there's still issues within the DC Police Department. Again, as we're about to get to, there's still massive staffing lows and overtime issues and morale issues. However, I am getting less calls because I feel like people are way more loyal to interim chief Jeffrey Carroll, who has been there for over 25 years at this point, than they were to Chief Smith, who came in kind of as an outsider and was quite controversial in a lot of her internal policies. And so, while I'm by no means saying that Chief Carroll is like leading the department perfectly, I do think that by picking an internal candidate, people are less likely to pick up the phone and, tell anyone that they can find about how pissed off they are at their chief. This is someone that maybe they went through training with. And so I think there's a little bit more goodwill or a little bit more understanding given to Carroll than perhaps maybe an outsider, just because, they've served together for decades.
I also think there has to be some amount of closing of ranks when you feel like your city is under attack. Like, okay, this is family business. Let's keep this internal. And not let anyone see us sweat, but as people are trying to make a case for, I don't know, why DC shouldn't be its own state or not have as much autonomy as it, as the little autonomy that does have. And so let's keep this among us and maybe wait till eyes aren't as closely fixed on us, and then we'll figure this out.
Let's talk about the DC SCU, your friendly neighborhood sustainable energy utility. 15 years and they're still here. Talk about eyes on the prize. Their mission possible. Serving residents with efficiency and clean energy programs, improving affordability and quality of life across all 8 wards. They've delivered $2.2 billion in lifetime savings for district residents and businesses alike. they've prevented 10.1 million metric tons of emissions right here. These are your neighbors working for you. And it makes sense that they're in Southeast by the ballpark because they are knocking it out of the park daily. There is no ivory tower. They're on the sidewalks, out on the streets, and they're at your door, making it happen, more capable, more committed than ever. Doing right by you and you and you. I see you standing up. That's right, clap your hands because DCSCU is 15 and still redefining power in the district. Find out more at dcscu.com.
So speaking of chaos at the Metropolitan Police Department, I'm not going out on a limb when I say it's never a good week for a police force when multiple employees are arrested, which happened this week with MPD. Why?
Right. So, according to prosecutors, 6 current and former DC employees have been charged for basically taking almost $500,000 in overtime pay for time that they simply did not work. I wrote about this earlier this week when the arrest warrants were first signed by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Now, all 6 have been arrested and charged, and we have even more details in the court documents. And it's wild. I mean, it was 5 officers, 1 civilian employee.
Wait, so it was 6 people, and
it's like about 450. It's like 441K.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just do the math in my head. So that's like 80 grand each.
We actually have the amounts each person had. The most, the person who, padded their pockets the most was former Sergeant Franz Fulcher, and he received basically $175,000 in fraudulent overtime. And the person who got the least was former Lieutenant Peter Sheldon, who received about $18K. So,
Sucker.
I mean, even that's a lot of money.
So what happens now? How have they pleaded? And, Ben, jump in if you want, because, there's a bunch of different elements here. One, obviously, you don't want in particularly in public safety agencies, you don't want people of low moral character who are going to lie and cheat. That's just bad. But also there is this city budget issue of what level of funding is going to give them enough people so they don't have to be constantly using overtime. And then inevitably the issue of DC that has this sort of flimsy home rule set up, and sort of anything that makes it look like this is not a well-governed place is, in our year 2026, really dangerous.
Right. Many of them appeared in court for the first time Wednesday. And, we still have to see how the legal process is going to play out. But the charging documents were fascinating to me. I mean, I was really fascinated by this one civilian employee whose job was to service the MPD cars. And, apparently he was submitting overtime requests for things like the civil disturbance unit or backfill or things like that, which MPD's civil disturbance unit is the group that responds to protests and First Amendment activities and civil unrest, not something that a guy whose job is to work on the MPD police cars could do.
Do they have dedicated cars in that unit, or do they just borrow someone else's car?
I don't think so. These are sworn officer duties. And
right.
This kind of mechanic type guy was yes, I'm billing overtime to hear another one of the officers billed overtime while they were in Cabo. It just was it didn't seem
gig.
Once they started looking into it, it was very tricky or sophisticated to crack, which is really interesting.
I mean, maybe they were bringing down a kingpin in Cabo.
Right.
Right. Maybe he was doing overtime in Cabo.
Ben, I know it's a week where our members of our DC council are scattered to the wind. But what has there been any reaction in, among elected officials, among people who might be ambitious for attention as elected officials, or anyone in the sort of city political mix in response to this?
Yeah, we've seen some people posting about it here and there. Councilmember Brooke Pinto said, no one is above the law, and these fraud allegations are a, quote, deep betrayal, public trust, and a waste of hard-earned taxpayer money. End quote, and her saying, public corruption won't be tolerated, and it's critical we allow the legal process to move forward to figure this out. If they are wary of the sum total that's going to come before them at the council, they're going to say, okay, well, how do we know that you actually need this money because some of your own people are getting arrested. Maybe that could be flipped on the council. I don't know, with a little bit of jujitsu. But it is hard to say, like, we need this money for sure for the sake of public safety when you don't know that you actually need that money because you can't, like, account for it. It's a big, complex thing. But like you were saying, in the meta sense, any just whiff that we can't control ourselves or keep our house in order is not a good look for the district, despite human beings just doing a lot of things that human beings will do at the center of all this.
Man, I gotta say, some of these local elected officials could perhaps take a lesson from our Trumpy U.S. Attorney, Jeanine Pirro, who released a video about this week. And it was, if you leave out the fact that, it's weird that a federal prosecutor oversees local stuff and all that, this was like basic, like, attention-getting local DA stuff. She makes a video saying it's unfair, these people have stolen from us, blah, 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 blah. You could write the script yourself, and a Democratic district attorney in all the cities of the world that elect their own local district attorneys could have made exactly the same thing. And, it channeled what ought to be, I think, like, public outrage against, like, people who use their position to, like, take our money, that, like, we need to keep our streets safe and stuff. And I was like, it's weird. The U.S. attorneys for D.C. never had to make camera hogging statements because, unfortunately, they don't actually answer to the people. So there's no upside to them in, like, playing to the gallery. And in Pirro's case now, she's playing to a gallery of one. Because she wants, Trump to see her as a tough guy and not fire her. But I don't get why more of our local officials wouldn't, like, embrace this as a thing that they're going to sort of say, like, hey, I don't think there's anybody who would, like, take the thing of, like, we ought to make it easier for people to take advantage of overtime inappropriately. And, there's a way of making a statement expressing a sort of outrage about the charges without, like, judging people guilty before they've been adjudicated. It's just weird that they wouldn't do that.
Well, a couple things there. I will say Pirro's TV experience definitely shines through at moments as someone that goes to a lot of these press conferences. I think maybe it's easier said than done to be engaging because a lot of these, like, law enforcement types, especially a lot of attorneys, a lot of, like, career law enforcement people speak in ways where, people are always individuals and allegedly is in every sentence. Yeah. You know what I mean? And Pirro just, like, gets real blunt in a way that I do think serves her well, but I don't think is always, like, the first instinct for public officials. And on the other hand, everyone agrees that this is bad, but I also feel like Ben was saying earlier, I do think there's kind of an instinct to be like, we got it under control ourselves. Like, we don't need to put a ton of attention on the fact that, like, these 6 current and former people were committing overtime fraud in our department 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of money, but also the overtime issue in the grand scheme of things is, like, its own beast. I mean, that was almost $500,000, but, like, last year MPD spent nearly $134 million on overtime. And, like, some of the top people at MPD are, like, literally tripling their salaries, earning multiple 6 figures in overtime every year. And, like, that's probably legit. Like, they probably are working that much overtime, but I think that maybe there's a tendency to be like, we need to figure out how to get this problem that we all recognize under control before we shout out into the masses about it, because we know how easily that can just get wrested out of our hands.
So, you guys, I was I went with my mom to Wolf Trap, where the National Symphony Orchestra was playing Beethoven's Ninth a week ago. It's pretty awesome. That guy's got a future, that Beethoven guy. But, a lot of people were wearing these buttons with, like, a heart and the word NSO inside the heart, because it's a real, and even the Gianandrea Noseda, the like very elegant, conductor of the symphony, is wearing one. And, it gives you this sense of this like beleaguered orchestra. They've lost their home at the Kennedy Center. They've announced it's going to close. There's litigation there. This week, after that, they have released finally their schedule for the upcoming season, which starts next month. Previous years, they would release the schedule in like February or March. And but in this case, they were scrambling. Where are we going to play? They're going to do it at like 6 different venues across the DMV. There's a lot of concern about are people going to even know where they're playing, and venue confusion. And in addition to the hassle and the demoralization of it all, the NSO has been in real crisis as a result of, after Trump's Kennedy Center takeover, a lot of people dropped subscriptions or stopped buying tickets, didn't want to be part of that. And, if you're an orchestra, even if it's like 10% of tickets go unsold, drop, that's a big number. So this is the sort of kind of current moment we're in. The season is apparently like about what they were planning before the announcement of closure. But the sense of chaos is really kind of roiling over this. Look, most people, including me, don't go to the symphony a lot. I go when my mom asks me, when her friend's flight gets canceled. I think a lot of us sort of flatter ourselves, like, oh, we live in the kind of city that has a world-class symphony. And, here we are, like another Washington institution embattled and continuing to be embattled.
Right. I was really struck. The Washington Post had some great reporting about how the orchestra was like in crisis, was I think the word they used, had lost a lot of its audience, individual donors. And I think that part of that was because for a long time, the orchestra was one of the few institutions that was kind of sticking by the Kennedy Center instead of voluntarily leaving. That was a decision. And now they're not going to have a place to perform for 2 years. And so I feel like maybe this is optimistic, but I feel like people will rally around them now. I feel like there's been a lot of attention on the fact that, this internationally acclaimed orchestra that's also our DC orchestra has kind of been kicked to the curb for 2 years. Whether or not you think the renovations are necessary or wise, like that's a real bummer. And so I think that these like NSO pens and things may be the start of a surge in support. I think for a while people were like, I don't really need to like support them because they're with the Kennedy Center. And yes. Now I think that there might be a revival in public opinion here. I think the whole Kennedy Center thing has become such a hot button issue. And so, I think that a lot of people are very sympathetic to the situation of the NSO, including people who, as you said, might like the idea of DC having an orchestra, right, but have never been before. I think those are exactly the type of people that are going to feel compelled to like donate or go to their first show, in fact, because it's not at the Kennedy Center.
I mean, you also covered the latest in the court case over both the Kennedy Center closure and like the name on the facade and the tarp that covers the name on the facade. And I feel, as I so often do in the America of our year, it's as if I'm like arguing with an 8-year-old. Like the minute you've gotten into an argument, you've already lost because like, look at you, you're an adult and you're arguing with an 8-year-old. Can you just give us the quick and dirty on like what's going on there?
Right. The court case is so beyond in the weeds at this point. What started as a court case over, renaming it the Donald J. Trump Kennedy Center, and closing it has turned into there's these little mini legal battles over everything. Basically, the latest is that the Democratic lawmaker who's kind of spearheaded this whole legal crusade is asking a judge to once again block Trump's name on the Kennedy Center. But basically what happened is that after the judge said, no, Trump's name can't be in front of the Kennedy sign, the board took it as a vote and was like, what if we put it underneath? And so they want to add a little inscription underneath the sign that says restored and renovated by President Donald J. Trump. They also have voted to name the center's grounds the President Donald J. Trump Plaza. Basically, they were like, okay, so we can't rename the whole thing after him, but we can Trump up, the Kennedy Center grounds so that people still know that in their eyes, President Trump has like breathed new life into this center. So that's one part of it. There's also the fight over the tarp, which I'm sure you guys have seen. There's this huge scaffolding and a tarp over the sign. The judge asked the Kennedy Center to explain, hey, why did you take the sign down but then have kept it hidden for months now? And they said that it's because there's ongoing construction. The executive director of the center like wrote a sworn declaration being basically like there's issues with the panels, the roof overhangs, like, and also we don't know. We're just going to leave it up as long as the construction needs to be. So they won't commit to a time that we can actually see the sign.
So let me back up. In a previous decision, people had sued to stop the closure, and the judge put that closure on hold.
Yes.
Saying that this the board hadn't like been thorough enough or whatever. And now, presumably having been thorough, the board has again voted to close it. In the meantime, while this closure was on hold, they also were not like booking anything. So whether or not it was like quote unquote open, there wasn't going to be any concerts there. Is that right?
Don't forget they had the fireworks show that you could watch for like thousands of dollars there.
Right.
That was some great Kennedy Center programming. Right, that is right. The judge basically said, I can't stop you from I'm not going to stop you from closing it, but I don't think you've considered the options here. Like you just went, let's close it. So they took it again, and in the executive director, in their like sworn testimony that they submitted to the court earlier this week, he said that they had an independent analysis done. This team presented the board with kind of 3 different options, like a full closure for 2 years, a partial closure for 4 years, or like basically just the repairs like immediately necessary. And the board ended up going with the one for 2 years because the 4-year closure, where they would close like one part of the center and then would well surpass the cost of like the $250 million Congress has appointed. So we did get some more insight into the reasoning on the 2-year closure in this one, at least.
So and is that now done, or is there further litigation on whether they can even close it?
The judge will have to approve it.
Mm-hmm.
This filing this week was basically just both parties, the Democratic lawmaker and the Kennedy Center, kind of saying their piece, what their justification for their decisions, what they're mad about, and then Judge Cooper will have to rule once again. And so we are, once again, I feel like we've been doing this for the past year, awaiting a ruling on the Kennedy Center from Judge Cooper.
All right, I want to give a big thank you to our newest CityCast DC neighbors, Bryn E., Sam S., Benjamin M., Joseph M., Joshua R., Peter C., Meredith H., Tony B., Ellen M., Jill S., Marlene B., Caroline W., and Hillary S. Thank you all for your support. Today, paid subscribers get a bonus 4th roundup chat. It's a good one. We're going to talk about the tan suit. Do you remember this, the tan suit? Obama wore a tan suit. It was a scandal. It was the kind of thing that people got upset about, disrespect for the Oval Office back then. If you want to be sure you always get the full episode, please become a member. Head to membership.citycast.fm and sign up. It's only $10 a month. Members get ad-free listening, exclusive members events, and an extra events newsletter each and every week. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. Emma, Ben, awesome to see you guys.
Thanks for having me.
Likewise. Thanks, Mike.
And that's all for today here on CityCast DC. Our production team this week was Alexander Turk and Matthew Rogers. You can check out all of our excellent newsletters and reporting at dc.citycast.fm. Our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer. Music is by Alex Roldan, with additional music from Philip Ayers and Blue Lou from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell everyone about it next time you see the National Symphony? We will be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.